It is a site shrouded in mystery, meaning, and mysticism, and among the most visited in England.
For centuries, the mystery of Stonehenge has stirred imagination and debate. Towering stones, perfectly aligned with the skies, have whispered of lost knowledge and forgotten rituals. Legends credited giants, wizards, and even the gods themselves. But now, after decades of study and cutting-edge technology, Stonehenge's greatest mystery has finally been solved, and scientists were left speechless.
Now, a new analysis shows that the 6-ton iconic altar stone at the heart of Stonehenge originated from northeastern Scotland rather than southwest Wales.
Hidden within the rocks and beneath the soil lies a story that changes everything we thought we knew about humanity's past. This is not just another theory. It's the revelation that left experts stunned. The monument that refused to explain itself. For centuries, Stonehenge has stood as one of humanity's most enduring enigmas. Rising from the windswept Salisbury Plain, its towering sarcens and smaller bluestones form a circle that has fascinated scholars, mystics, and travelers alike. To gaze upon it is to sense power and intent. Yet for much of recorded history, its meaning lay hidden in silence. Was it an observatory, a burial ground, a temple aligned to the gods, or something far stranger still? From antiquarians of the Middle Ages to modern scientists armed with lasers, drones, and chemical assays, the question endured: what is Stonehenge, and why was it built? With every generation came new theories, yet the stones refused to yield their story fully. Its arrangement, massive uprights crowned with lintels, smaller stones clustered within, all oriented to the points of the sun, invited speculation but never resolution. Ancient legends attributed the structure to Merlin, giants, or long-lost civilizations, while archaeologists, in more recent centuries, mapped its alignments to the solstices, sought graves beneath its rings, and uncovered traces of fires and feasts that spoke of ritual. Still, there was no consensus. The monument, in its silence, became a canvas for projection and myth. But now, after years of research and debate, scientists say they have reached a breakthrough. And for the first time in history, the phrase "Stonehenge secret exposed," so often used in the countless theories, finally carries weight, backed by scientific evidence. The findings, painstakingly assembled from thousands of excavated objects, hundreds of chemical analyses, and a network of prehistoric sites spread across Britain, converge on a story that is more intricate and astonishing than any simple theory ever proposed. So, what is it exactly about Stonehenge that causes such mystery? Engineering the impossible? Well, the answer lies in its construction. The great mystery of Stonehenge is how the materials that make up this monument arrived at the site. This question has long bewildered scientists and historians alike. Long before bronze tools, wheels, or written words, Neolithic builders orchestrated an achievement that seems to defy possibility. The sarsen stones, some weighing more than 20 tons and rising 7 meters high, were dragged across miles of rugged landscape from West Woods in Wiltshire. The altar stone is believed to have traveled an even greater distance, nearly 470 miles from Scotland, an almost unimaginable feat for people of the 3rd millennium BCE. This was no haphazard construction. Timber trackways, ropes of twisted fiber, wooden sleds, and communal strength created an engineering project that rivaled any monument of the ancient world. Archaeologists have found the remnants of ancient quarries, evidence of tree felling on a massive scale, and even deep ruts in the chalky soil that once cradled the sledges as they bore their load. The logistics of such an enterprise required not just technical ingenuity, but sophisticated planning, a coordinated labor force, and the will to undertake years of backbreaking effort for a vision whose meaning has only grown more mysterious with time. Unlike other stone circles, typically built from rocks found locally, Stonehenge was assembled with deliberate imports. Every piece was chosen, every placement exact. Bluestones from the Preseli Hills in Wales, Sarsens from Wiltshire, and the enigmatic altar stone from the north, all brought together across astonishing distances. The shaping of the stones, mortise and tenon joints, and precisely fitted lintels required not just brute force, but mastery of geometry and technique. This level of design spoke not merely of ceremony, but of intention, a project whose difficulty was part of its meaning, and whose grandeur was meant to outlast the people who built it. The monument stands, even now, as a silent challenge to modern understanding, daring each new generation to solve the riddle of its seemingly impossible creation. The bluestones that would not drift. Among the vast sarsens that rise from the Salisbury Plain, it is the smaller, enigmatic stones, the bluestones, that have long drawn the sharpest lines of debate. These are not native to Wiltshire. Geologists trace their origins to the rugged Preseli Hills in Wales, a wild country of heather and granite that lies over 125 miles from the site of Stonehenge. The sheer distance raises a question that seems to border on the impossible. How did these dense, ton-weight stones find their way to a chalk plain so far from home, at a time before wheels or draft animals were known in Britain? Two rival theories competed for dominance over the decades. Some geologists insisted that glacial ice, crawling over the landscape during the last ice age, had plucked these bluestones from their Welsh bedrock and scattered them across southern England as the glaciers receded. By this logic, Neolithic builders merely gathered what the earth had delivered. Others, especially archaeologists, could not accept such passivity from the monument's makers. They envisioned a massive, coordinated effort, thousands of people using ropes, sledges, and log rollers to drag, float, and haul the stones over rivers and hills, driven by a purpose that outweighed the hardship. At the very center of this standoff stood the Newell boulder, an unassuming, football-sized stone discovered a century ago among the ruins. For years, it sat silent in a museum storage drawer, catalogued and mostly forgotten, its significance obscured by the passage of time. To those who favored the glacial theory, it was an accidental passenger, a remnant of ancient ice. To advocates of human agency, it was a potential clue, if only its story could be read in the patterns of its minerals. The smoking gun in the rock. The debate persisted for decades, but it was only the relentless march of scientific progress that finally brought clarity. Professor Richard Bevans, leading a team from Aberystwyth University, returned to the Newell boulder with tools unimaginable to earlier generations. Through geochemical assays and powerful microscopic analysis, they mapped the stone's internal structure, isolating trace elements, thorium, zirconium, and studying the crystalline lattice that revealed its true identity. The results were more than conclusive, they were transformative. The Newell boulder's geochemical fingerprint matched with extraordinary precision to a very specific outcrop at Craig Rossi-Phelan in North Pembrokeshire. Every element, every nuance of texture, pointed to this singular Welsh quarry. Moreover, the stone's surfaces told another story. It was not battered and scratched by ice. There were no scars or striations to suggest it had been dragged by a glacier across the landscape. The breakage was intentional, the removal clean. This was not nature's leftover. It was a selected, quarried object, purposefully detached from its source and transported by human hands, mile after mile, day after day. This revelation grew only stronger when another Stonehenge fragment, stone 32D, was unearthed from its long rest in the chalk. Its composition, a foliated rhyolite coated in a hard crust of calcium carbonate from centuries underground, matched both the Newell boulder and the Pembrokeshire outcrop. Here, in the mineral bonds, was proof beyond argument. The people who built Stonehenge did not passively gather what chance provided. They orchestrated one of prehistory's greatest feats of engineering, importing stones with deliberate intent, not for convenience, but for meaning, lost to time. In that moment, as the evidence was assembled and the analyses repeated, one of archaeology's most durable mysteries surrendered. The debate was over, the story written in stone, and with it, a major Stonehenge secret exposed itself with clarity. This monument was not a product of glacial luck, but of human vision, determination, and the drive to shape the world in the image of their beliefs. The day the old theory collapsed. For generations, the glacier hypothesis hovered over the mystery of Stonehenge, soothing in its simplicity. It suggested that the mighty forces of the Ice Age had done the heavy lifting. Glaciers, grinding down from Wales, had carried the enigmatic bluestones across impossible distances, depositing them like cosmic breadcrumbs across the Salisbury Plain. According to this view, Neolithic builders merely collected what nature had delivered, sparing themselves a feat of logistics so daunting it seemed beyond the reach of their world. But the comforting clarity of this theory could not withstand the relentless scrutiny of new technology and scientific rigor. One by one, the pillars supporting the glacier hypothesis began to buckle. Marks once interpreted as glacial scratches, striations etched into the surfaces of bluestones, lost their certainty. Microscopic analysis and weathering studies revealed that such marks could just as easily be the result of centuries of natural erosion, the slow grinding of wind and rain, rather than the violent passage of ice. More telling still was the landscape itself. If glaciers had scattered bluestones across the Salisbury Plain, the fields and hills surrounding Stonehenge would be littered with these erratics, random stones, large and small, peppered across the countryside like crumbs spilled from a giant's table. Yet the plain was silent. No scatter, no remnants, no evidence of a glacial bounty waiting to be harvested. The bluestones existed only at Stonehenge and nowhere else in the region. But perhaps the most damning blow came from the monument itself. The scale of human ambition inscribed in Stonehenge was unmistakable. To argue that the same people who masterminded the raising of trilithons, colossal upright stones, capped with lintels and weighing more than 40 tons apiece, would be incapable of transporting stones a fraction of that size was, as one archaeologist noted, absurd in the extreme. The monument testified to human capability on a scale almost defiant in its audacity. The logic was inescapable. The glacier theory, built on comforting assumptions and circumstantial marks, crumbled under the weight of its contradictions. What remained, clear and unyielding as the stones themselves, was the story of human willpower, ingenuity, and collective action. It was people, not ice, who set the bluestones on the Salisbury Plain. It was effort, not accident, that wrote their story into the earth. But this wasn't the only mystery about Stonehenge. A calendar embedded in stone. With the question of origin settled, the mystery shifted. Why this arrangement? Why circles and horseshoes? Why alignments that seemed at once mathematical and mystical. It was Professor Timothy Darvill of Bournemouth University who pieced together the answer, a revelation that sent shockwaves through the field. Stonehenge, he argued, was not simply a monument, but a calendar, a timekeeping device of astonishing sophistication. The clues lay in the Sarsens, the great circle of 30 uprights each capped by a lintel, forming a continuous ring. This ring, Darvill showed, functioned as a model of a Neolithic month, 30 days, divided into 3 weeks of 10 days each. The organization was not arbitrary, it was precise, a deliberate reflection of solar cycles. 12 such months, 12 complete turns of the Sarsen circle, yielded 360 days. Yet, the builders knew the year was longer. At the heart of the monument, standing apart from the circle, rose 5 monumental trilithons. These, Darvill proposed, marked the 5 intercalary days needed to complete the solar year, days likely reserved for great communal festivals or sacred rites, marking moments when the world tipped from one season to the next. Still, the calculation was not complete. At the very edge of the henge, 4 station stones stood, forming a rectangle that did not fit the neat geometry of the central rings. Their role, revealed through astronomical alignment, was to reconcile the stone calendar with the true solar year. Every 4th year, a leap day could be added, maintaining the alignment between sky and earth. In this way, the monument encoded a leap year system, anticipating a precision the Western world would not rediscover until thousands of years later. Stonehenge, raised between 2620 and 2480 BCE, had not shifted since. Its stones, unyielding and immense, held their alignments through millennia of weather, war, and wonder. It was more than a tomb or a temple. It was a fusion of governance, astronomy, and faith, an instrument by which the Neolithic world could predict planting and harvest, guide ritual and authority, and chart the passage of time itself. In an age before the written word, it was a calendar carved into megalith, a testament to a civilization that sought to order the heavens and bind the seasons to stone. The moon in the machine. Yet even as the sun ruled over seasons and the passage of agricultural time, the moon exerted its own power over the monument and its meaning. Archaeologists digging into the patterns encoded within the stones realized that Stonehenge's builders tracked more than the bright daily path of the sun. They followed the deeper, slower beat of the lunar cycle. Every 18.6 years, the moon reaches a standstill, its rising and setting points at their most extreme, north and south. These rare events, the major lunar standstills, would have been moments of mystery and awe, occasions for ritual and remembrance. Stonehenge's station stones, 4 solitary markers at the monument's edge, have long puzzled researchers. But as understanding of the lunar cycle deepened, a pattern emerged. The station stones align with the moon's major standstill points. Even more compelling, cremation burials found in the monument's southeast quadrant are positioned to align with the southernmost lunar rise. This is evidence of a people acutely attuned to the slow, deliberate rhythm of the sky, not just the obvious blaze of the sun, but the pale, shifting ghost of the moon, whose path charts time on a cosmic scale. When the great Sarsens were finally raised, Stonehenge became a true fusion of celestial knowledge, a place where the solar and lunar calendars converged in architecture, ritual, and stone. Its builders did not just track the easy cycles, but reconciled the sun's yearly return with the moon's hidden 18.6-year rhythm. This was a cosmic machine, a monument where time was not a single drumbeat, but a woven tapestry of light, shadow, and phase. Here, the people of ancient Britain bound their lives to the universe's dance, anchoring birth, death, planting, and mourning to the endless, intricate movements of the heavens. Not only did the stones amplify the workings of the sky, but they also amplified the senses, the sound. The stones remember. Stonehenge's mysteries have never been confined to stone and sunlight alone. As researchers pressed beyond the visual and astronomical, they discovered the monument was also an ancient instrument of sound, leaving scientists speechless. The University of Salford's team of acoustic engineers, driven by curiosity about how the site might have sounded to its earliest worshippers, built a precise 1:12 scale replica they called Mini-Henge. In the echoing quiet of their lab, they recreated the sonic environment of 2500 BCE, setting microphones and sensors between scaled-down stones that mimicked the true monument's arrangement and mass. The results were astonishing. Within the circle, the stones created a unique acoustic chamber. Sounds were amplified by 4 decibels, not enough to turn whispers into shouts, but enough to lend voices a presence and clarity that would have felt otherworldly. Words and chants traveled with uncanny precision to anyone standing inside the ring, while those beyond its bounds heard only muted echoes, a secret language of stone. This was not an open-air theatre, not a space for the general crowd, but a chamber for the chosen, the initiated, perhaps the priesthood or leaders of a ceremony. Inside the circle, the living could commune, sing, and speak as one, bound together in a resonance that shut out the world. And there was more. When acoustic specialists and archaeologists tested the smaller bluestones, they found several that rang with a bright, metallic timbre when struck, natural lithophones, shaped by time and selection. Imagine a ritual where, as the sun or moon aligned with the stones, the circle not only glowed, but sang, the very rocks ringing out in deliberate metallic notes as if the earth itself was joining the ceremony. This discovery leads us to believe that in its original, complete state, Stonehenge may have been a symphony of sight and sound, a theatre where voices were elevated, secrets protected, and the stones themselves took part in the ancient rites. This was a calendar not just of light and shadow, but of music, a place where time was marked by both sight and the resonance that echoed beneath the open sky. Through these discoveries, researchers were solving the mysteries of Stonehenge, one by one. Stonehenge's secret exposed. How was it built? Where did the materials come from? And what was the purpose of the monument? The answers to Stonehenge's greatest mysteries were never hidden in any single artifact, inscription, or excavation trench. It emerged only as the weight of evidence pressed the centuries-old speculation into coherence. The journey of the New Old Boulder, dragged more than 125 miles from the Preseli Hills, ended the argument over how the bluestones arrived. There was no convenient glacial delivery, no accidental scattering by retreating ice. These stones were selected, shaped, and transported by the willpower and organization of Neolithic people. Their effort was not random. Each stone's placement was dictated by a blueprint of astronomical intent. The pattern of sarsens and bluestones across the chalk plain was not a whimsical ring, but a precise map, a perpetual solar calendar that marked the passage of the year with the surety of mathematics. Professor Darvall's work proved that the structure's layout encoded a calendar system with near-modern accuracy, far more than mere visual symmetry could achieve. But the stones did more than measure the sky. They amplified the senses. When acoustic engineers recreated the soundscape, the results were nothing short of astonishing. Inside the stone circle, voices and music carried farther and clearer, transformed into instruments of ritual and connection. Some bluestones could even ring when struck, turning the air itself into an extension of the monument's purpose. This was not accidental. In this circle, sound itself became sacred, a tool to bind community and ceremony with the landscape. The final thread came from the moon. Every 18.6 years, the moon stands at the farthest reaches of its cycle. The major lunar standstill and the geometry of Stonehenge reflects this rare cosmic event. The station stones are positioned with a deliberate eye to these lunar extremes, showing that Stonehenge was not just solar, but lunisolar, a device for tracking both the everyday and the extraordinary, a machine for mapping not just the sun's annual journey, but the moon's generational dance across the sky. All the strands, solar, lunar, sonic, and monumental, intertwined to expose the secret Stonehenge held for millennia. It was never a simple tomb or a primitive temple. It was not built in phases of confusion, nor was it the legacy of giants or gods. Stonehenge was a unified system, a cosmic machine engineered with such sophistication that it wove time, ritual, and environment into a seamless whole. Its stones stood not as a mystery, but as a solution to the problems of timekeeping, community, and meaning in a world where nothing was left to chance. This is the moment the Stonehenge secret exposed itself in the fullest sense. The monument is humanity's first perpetual calendar, an acoustic temple and a bridge between the human and the celestial, leaving scientists speechless. Why they were speechless? What left scientists breathless was not the confirmation that Neolithic people could move stones or align them with celestial bodies. That had been accepted in theory for decades. What struck them silent was the scale of the intellectual leap encoded in the monument. Here was a society with no writing, no metal tools, and no formal mathematics, yet its builders achieved what the ancients of Greece and Rome would not manage for thousands of years: a calendar system that accounted for leap years and the moon's eccentric rhythm, an architecture that transformed stone into both an observatory and an instrument. Beneath the monument's weight allegedly lay the evidence that these ancient people understood cycles and corrections like the 365.25-day year, long before Julius Caesar's reform. Their memory was carved into stone, not on tablets, and their rituals transformed by the resonance of voice amplified within the circle. The monument itself challenged every myth that had clung to its silent stones, stripping away the need for supernatural builders and replacing it with the reality of human ingenuity and vision. Where legend had once spoken of wizards or giants, the truth now honored the collaborative genius of ordinary men and women, united by belief, purpose, and the desire to etch their lives into the fabric of earth and sky. The final unsolved question is not how nor what, but why. Why pour so much labor, artistry, and intelligence into a monument that would outlast generations and remain mysterious even to descendants? The answer seems to echo through the ages, embedded in the very presence of Stonehenge. It endures because it was meant to. It gathers because it always has. It inspires because that is its deepest function: to awaken wonder, connection, and awe. As the last secrets are brought to light, Stonehenge is no longer a riddle to be solved, but a message to be received. Its greatest mystery, how such a monument could exist, has been answered. Its greatest power is that even now it moves us to silence and awe. In exposing its secret, scientists discovered not only the monument's ancient meaning, but the enduring human need to seek, build, and remember. Stonehenge's greatest mystery may be solved, but do you believe we now know its true purpose? Or could there still be deeper secrets hidden within its stones? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching this video with us, and catch you in the next one.